going on, dudes and dudettes? Yes, I probably look like Curly now, but we'll all get over it soon. In a couple months we'll be back. But start off with some Chargers news. So yeah, for some reason, past couple of days, some news came out that the NFL was gonna want to move them to London to be their London-based team, which is pretty ridiculous. You think they choose a England team like that? I think I mentioned that in the other video, but their main owner came out and said that, I mean, he used so much profanity, but he said it was BS and everything like that. So yeah, it's obviously not going to happen. They don't have a lot of fans out here. It's only mostly Rams fans, but they're still going to stick with it and try to share that new stadium with the Rams as good as they can. But some other positive news, at least for Derwin James, the injured safety, obviously one of my favorite players. He is going to be able to come back around week 13. So I think he's not playing this week coming up in Mexico against the Chiefs, and then they get a bye week, a week off, so then he probably returns that next week when they go to Denver. But I kind of wish he really wouldn't, because that would give them a higher possibility to win. And right now they sit at 4-6 after losing to the Raiders this last Thursday, and I just kind of wish they would lose a lot more than try to end up even, you know, like 8-8 or 7-9 like how they normally do. But one of the other things that they asked was, is this the end for Phillip Rivers? Because he did have 3 interceptions in that game with the Raiders, just a couple of horrible looking plays. I think he had like 4 or 5 altogether, but 2 of them were called back because of penalty, so it could have looked even worse for the Chargers instead of only losing by 2 in that game. But a lot of the complaint was going towards the offensive line, because they were putting out a new guy out there because one of the tackles was out for that game. But still, a lot of guys like a Rodgers, Tom Brady, a lot of the better guys out there, they still do quick, short, intermediate passes if they have a bad offensive line, or try to take away any advantage that the defensive has over you. So I just think it's more of a Phillip Rivers problem than it really is an offensive line problem, because he could really get away and still get yards, still get touchdowns. So it's kind of really still his fault. So on the USC Basketball, so they did get a W, their first game of the season last weekend against FAMU, 77-48. It was pretty close at halftime, but of course USC, with a lot of the talented freshmen they have, they're able to get away in the second half, which is really cool. One of their freshmen, Onyeka Okongwu, had a record debut. I think he tied the most points for a freshman in their first game, which is cool. And he kept it going again in the second game as well later in the week, where they beat Portland State in a little bit closer game, 76-65. But once again, he had a really good debut. I think he had a double-double. But you know, once again, Portland is a team that you really have to watch out for, because they're one of those sneaky teams that can upset you. So I'm kind of glad USC was able to play them and actually have a close game and get the victory out of it. So kind of still happy about that. At least they got some good experience with their young guys. But some miscellaneous news. So according to Disney Plus, they're gonna bring back the Mighty Ducks. I don't know if you know those 3 movies that came out, kind of like children movies in the 90s, but apparently it's going to be a new TV series. But from what I was reading, it was like about a player or a kid who doesn't make the team, the Mighty Ducks team, and somehow him and his mother start up their own team. So excuse me, I don't know how that's really a Mighty Ducks story, when really it seems like it's the rival or the foes that they always went against, you know, the bad kids. So I don't know why they would do that type of story. So if they're not going to really do it correctly, kind of like in the vein of those movies, then I kind of don't want to see it. But that's Disney, they'll do whatever they want, really. And then, of course, news, a lot of controversy came out about James Dean, even though he's been dead for like 64 years. But apparently some movie called Finding Jack, that it's based off a book, a World War II movie, that apparently they want him to be the co-star, like the second lead of the whole entire movie, and they're gonna digitally put him in there with CGI effects and do everything like that. Like, so he's gonna be like the second main person of the movie, really, which is really crazy when you think about it, like why they would do that, because you'd obviously find any type of actor really out there. I understand if you want to put him in like a cameo where he's in there for a minute or two, or in one or two scenes, and you did that digitally. And yeah, I know some people have problems with that, but I really don't. And I think it's a little bit weirder that it's, a full starring role kind of in a movie where he'll be most likely on the screen for like 30 to 40 minutes. So I don't know how that's going to be possible, and who knows, with all this backlash, it's probably not even going to get made either right now, because it's supposed to try to make it by next year. So maybe it won't even happen. Too bad. I kind of want to see how the technology has performed to see where we're at, because I know they did it for the Star Wars movie and nobody really had a problem with that, and they did it for the Social Network and about the Facebook movie where the second twin, his face was computer generated to the other main guy who was a bit more popular, so he didn't really have a problem with it, and nobody else did at that time as far as actors. But I guess now all of a sudden they do, because it's all dumb stuff. But Lakers news, so of course the more Anthony Davis BS came out, where he said that he never officially said he was going to go to Chicago and join the Chicago Bulls. But of course, all those things I mentioned in the last video of him saying, you never know, I am a free agent next year, this is my home place where I grew up. It's like all this misleading BS. So it is kind of messed up if he's just egging him on, and probably finish his career there, but at least the next 5 years of his new contract after this year, he's not going to be there. It's kind of messed up to give him a little bit of hope, and maybe he does re-sign with the Lakers. That's what pretty much everybody dismissed this rumor, and was basically saying that he was going to come back to the Lakers anyways, no matter what. But I don't know. I still don't believe anybody nowadays, especially when it comes to free agents and the Lakers. But speaking of the Lakers and the Bulls, they did play this last week, and the Lakers beat them 118 to 112. It was a pretty good comeback late in the fourth quarter there. I think the Lakers were down by almost 20 points, and LeBron once again had his third straight triple-double in a game, which is pretty amazing, especially on the road. And yeah, it was good that they got the victory, especially against Anthony Davis Chicago Bulls. But yeah, as far as that, they did play another game this last couple days against the Heat, and they won 95 to 80. It was a lot better defensive game. Really good to see, because that's what they've been championing so far, is that they want to be a better defensive team and hold teams under 100, which, as you know, is really hard to do this time in the NBA, because everybody can score 100 pretty easily. But keeping them at 80 and everybody getting tacos because it's a home game, that's really cool too. So congrats to the Lakers in getting that victory against the Heat. But onto some Duke basketball news. So they had two games as well. The very first game I mentioned was that big game on Tuesday where they were playing the number 3 team in the country, Kansas. I don't know how they were ranked ahead of them, but it was a very good and classic game that went down to the wire. It was back and forth a lot, but of course Duke had to get down by nearly 10-11 points, and they made a late comeback as well as the Lakers, and ended up getting that victory by 2. So it was 68 to 66, I believe. And they're saying that Duke doesn't really have a dominant player this year, kind of like they've had in the past couple years, but they still have the recipe to win a championship, which is still good news as far as, keeping my hopes up a bit. I think it's going to be good defensively for them. Just offensively, it might come a little bit slower than I anticipated, and hopefully they'll get it going by March, and when March Madness starts and everything like that. But then we have them, I think it was yesterday, they played Colorado State, which has been a pretty okay program the past couple years, but Duke did beat them up 89 to 55, so that's pretty cool to see. It was, I think, their first real home game, and it was another non-conference win, so I think they're over 100 some odd wins of straight victories over non-conference people at home. So it's good to keep that streak going for Duke. Happy about that, and we'll see how they do in their next couple games this week. Then USC football, finally. So the new athletic director, Mike Baum, in his press conference this week said that he wasn't trying to put any pressure on Coach Helton, but he did mention that he wants to see the Trojans finish strong. Obviously that means with wins. They've been really close past couple weeks, but with all the injuries and the type of teams they're playing as well, they've been close in the Notre Dame game, and they had a chance in that Oregon game without all that controversy. But yeah, he still said it's too soon to make a thing or a commitment with Clay Helton, the head coach. So we'll have to wait and see on that. But luckily, he did something this weekend to help him out. So they did beat ASU 31-26. It was a lot closer than people thought, just because USC was up 28-7 at one point, and you know, the freshman quarterback broke a record for like a freshman in 1/4 of how many yards of throwing. And then the offense faltered, of course, but you could also blame it on the defense too for giving up that many points as well, because the offense caught them to around 28-31 points at halftime. So blame could go everywhere else, and of course the fans are always upset, and I don't know why, because they're second in the South Division. They have a chance to have the tiebreaker with Utah if Utah loses another game and get to the Pac-12 championship, as long as they beat Cal and UCLA the last 2 games. But just have to wait and see. Thanks for watching, people. Like and subscribe. Comment down below. Let me know what y'all think. Have a great rest of your day.